The footage you're about to hear described was recorded on a warm June evening in 2050, an ordinary night that would soon showcase extraordinary police technology. This is a night patrol most viewers had never seen before, and one that left millions stunned. At first, everything looks familiar. A typical cruiser rolling through a busy American highway system, the flow of traffic steady, the hum of engines blending into the calm of the city. But there's one crucial difference. Mounted on top of this cruiser is a device that, just a decade earlier, belonged only in science fiction. An autonomous predictive patrol drone, equipped with non-invasive quantum imaging systems capable of scanning vehicles for hidden threats without ever making physical contact. The video begins inside the cabin. Two officers sit quietly, the dashboard lit with soft blue holographic displays, their patrol car connected to a network of drones gliding silently above the traffic lanes. The narrator explains that these drones operate with near-zero noise and use a quantum resonance system that analyzes materials, density changes, and concealed compartments without radiation, touch, or intrusion. The officers call it QI, short for quantum eye, but the public knows it by a more dramatic nickname, the transparency machine. As the cruiser merges into the fast lane, the drone activates automatically, rising from its magnetic cradle. The camera feed switches to its perspective. Viewers are stunned at the clarity. Vehicles below appear in layered overlays, showing structural outlines and flagged anomalies. In earlier decades, police needed physical searches, dogs, or complex warrants to look beneath surfaces. But now, the drone could detect modifications that suggested hidden storage, weapon housings, or illegal tech upgrades, all from 30 feet in the air. The first moment of disbelief in the video comes quickly. As the drone scans vehicles ahead, it highlights a dark blue sedan. Nothing unusual at first glance. But quantum imaging reveals inconsistencies around the front interior paneling. The system flags it in yellow. Structural modifications, 73% probability of concealed storage. The officers glance at the alert. "Mark that one," Officer Reyes says calmly. His partner, Officer Hill, nods and taps a glow-in control panel. The drone locks onto the sedan, tracking its speed and lane changes with surgical precision. The officers initiate a routine stop. Not aggressive, not rushed. The patrol lights gently flash as the cruiser moves behind the sedan. The driver pulls over, unaware that the officers already have data about his car the naked eye could never detect. Americans begin flooding the screen. Some are amazed, some are skeptical, others are unsettled by what they call X-ray policing. But across all platforms, one sentiment dominates. How did they know that without opening the car? The narrator explains that quantum imaging challenges the assumptions people have had for decades about traffic stops. Historically, these interactions relied heavily on the officer's intuition, the driver's cooperation, and unpredictable external factors. But with predictive drones, officers gain information before approaching a window, dramatically reducing the unknowns. On screen, we see another real encounter from the same night. A silver SUV triggers a different alert, this time a thermal inconsistency near the rear cargo area. The system predicts an irregular heat signature, possibly from a concealed battery pack or illegal aftermarket power cell. Officers decide to make a stop. What happens next becomes one of the most replayed viral moments of the year. The driver steps out, a middle-aged woman with a surprised but friendly expression. She laughs nervously when she sees the drone hovering overhead. "Oh my gosh, is that thing reading my car?" Officer Hill responds with the same calm professionalism as before. "It's analyzing structural safety, nothing invasive." The woman smiles. "Well, good luck. It's a mess back there." Viewers laugh at this moment because the drone then displays a perfect outline of the SUV's interior clutter. Grocery bags, a stroller, a set of luggage, and something else, a dense block of material wedged behind the trim panel. The overlay turns red. The woman's smile fades. "Wait, what's that?" Officer Reyes explains gently. "Ma'am, do you have any aftermarket battery equipment or third-party power extensions installed?" She shakes her head. "No, I don't mess with that stuff." It's from everyday drivers. A young man shares his reaction on a live stream.
At first, I was freaked out. Like, are they seeing through my car? But then I realized it's not X-rays or anything, it's just mapping compartments. And honestly, I'd rather cops have tech that keeps them calm than have them guessing when they walk up. The section closes with a dramatic montage.
By the time the patrol reached the final hour of their shift, the officers had already experienced two surprising stops, one involving a hidden tech device, another revealing a near-exploding power cell. But none of that compared to what happened next. This final encounter would become the most replayed, most analyzed, and most debated moment in the entire video. It showcased the full potential of predictive patrol drones and revealed something no one expected. It starts with the drone performing routine scans over the slower lanes of a busy interstate. From above, everything looks normal, a mix of sedans, cargo pods, e-bikes, and a handful of autonomous commercial carriers. But then, without warning, the drone highlights a single vehicle in bright red. The alert reads, "Severe anomaly detected. Structural divergence, 98%. Officer Hill squints at the feed on the dashboard. "That can't be right," she mutters. "Nothing we've seen tonight even comes close to a 98% divergence." Officer Reyes adjusts the display. The target is a matte black SUV traveling at a steady speed. Nothing visually remarkable, but the quantum imaging overlay tells a different story. The vehicle's internal geometry appears distorted, as though the interior has been rebuilt from scratch with materials the drone struggles to interpret. Hill speaks again. "I'm calling it. Something's going on with that one." The officers activate their lights. The SUV doesn't accelerate, it doesn't brake suddenly, it simply signals calmly and pulls to the shoulder, as though expecting the stop. The body cam footage picks up from here. As the officers approach, "I've been testing it for a private research group. No danger. Fully stabilized." But the drone disagrees. A warning indicator pulses across the body cam overlay. Containment integrity, 62%. Increasing risk of thermal cascade. That's when the driver's face changes. He clearly didn't know. "What?" he whispers. "It was stable this morning." Reyes responds, calm but firm. "Sir, we need you to exit the vehicle now." The man complies quickly, stepping away from the SUV. Officers guide him to a safe distance as the drone continues its assessment. What happens next is something viewers replayed thousands of times. Using its emergency protocol, the drone deploys a thin field stabilization beam, an invisible magnetic resonance pulse designed not to manipulate objects, but to analyze structural integrity under stress. The SUV begins to vibrate softly. Hill radios dispatch. "We've got a compromised power cell, possible high-risk energy unit. Initiate hazard support." The narrator explains that these cold fusion cells, while incredibly efficient, were still experimental. A weakened containment shell could lead to catastrophic energy discharge. Not an explosion in the traditional sense, but a violent release of ionized plasma, capable of injuring nearby civilians. Viewers watch with wide eyes as the drone stabilization reading shifts. The final chapter of this night's patrol doesn't take place on the highway. It unfolds in living rooms, newsrooms, council halls, and social feeds across the country. Because once the footage went public, the reaction wasn't merely surprise. It was a national conversation. And for the officers involved, it became a defining moment in a rapidly evolving era of policing. The section begins with body cam footage transitioning into broadcast-style overlays. News anchors appear on the screen, replaying the moment when the drone identified the unstable cold fusion power cell. Some call it a miracle, others call it a warning. And the public? They're fascinated, conflicted, and deeply curious about what this technology means for everyday encounters. The narrator sets the stage. Within hours of release, the footage from the night patrol reached over 40 million views. By the end of the week, it had crossed 200 million. Clips of live stream reactions appear. A truck driver shakes his head in disbelief. "Man, that drone spotted something the dude didn't even know he had. That's insane." A tech blogger adds, "This isn't policing. This is engineering-level diagnostics on wheels." A civil rights analyst weighs in. Powerful tech needs powerful accountability, but when used transparently, tools like these reduce unnecessary escalation. The montage continues, showing headlines from major networks. Quantum drones, safety miracle or privacy concern? 2050 patrol tech saves lives, new era of policing? Should police see inside cars? The debate begins. The narrator explains that despite shock and skepticism, the data speaks for itself. In early trials across several states, predictive patrol drones decreased escalation by nearly 70%. Officers entering situations with more accurate information meant fewer misunderstandings, fewer confrontations, and fewer injuries for both officers and civilians. Then the video transitions to Officer Reyes, sitting down for a rare interview. He speaks plainly, calmly, with the tone of someone who has spent years in the field. When you walk up to a vehicle without knowing what's inside, there's always tension, always uncertainty. It's that moment between greeting the driver and learning what you're dealing with. This tech eliminates a lot of guesswork. It doesn't replace judgment, it just gives clarity. Officer Hill appears next, recounting the cold fusion battery incident. When that drone highlighted the instability, my heart dropped. That wasn't a traffic violation. That was a moving hazard. The guy didn't even know he was in danger. Without the drone, that highway could have been a disaster zone. She pauses, then adds a line that becomes one of the video's most quoted clips. "I'm not here to invade people's privacy. I'm here to go home safe and help them do the same." After the officer interviews, the documentary moves into a deeper analysis of how quantum imaging works. A lab scientist stands beside a diagram of resonance mapping fields. In quantum imaging and policing, it is not X-ray vision. It does not see people. It sees structural inconsistencies, density variations, and non-organic materials. Think of it as the world's most advanced metal detector, one that respects biological privacy and focuses solely on objects, not individuals. Diagrams show how the drone filters out organic signatures entirely, preventing scans of bodies or identifying human shapes. This is a deliberate design choice to maintain ethical boundaries. But even with safeguards, the narrator acknowledges the concerns. Tech critics argue, what stops future upgrades from scanning beyond materials? Civil liberties groups ask, who audits the tech? Who ensures it stays within limits? Meanwhile, families affected by the cold fusion recall send grateful messages to the department, thanking the officers for preventing another potential failure. The documentary then examines public forums. A town hall meeting shows a passionate discussion. Some citizens demand expansion of the program, citing safety and reduced conflict. Others urge caution, wanting clear limits written into law. This debate, the narrator explains, becomes a cornerstone of 2050 policing policy. After the civic discussion, the video returns to the driver with the cold fusion cell. He appears in a follow-up interview, standing next to the now disabled SUV. He says, "I design things for a living, but I didn't expect the police to have tech that could analyze power cells better than some labs. At first, I was embarrassed. Then I realized they may have saved my life." He emphasizes that the officers never treated him like a criminal. They saw danger, not guilt, and they handled it with respect. This testimony becomes a pivotal part of the nationwide conversation because it showcases the difference between predictive tech used to accuse and predictive tech used to safeguard. The section shifts to closing scenes, dusk settling over the highway, drones gliding silently back to their charging nests, patrol cruisers returning to the precinct. Inside the station, the officers complete their nightly reports. Data from the drone is archived, logged, and reviewed according to strict digital oversight rules. Everything is time-stamped, anonymized, and stored transparently, another layer of accountability built into the system. The narrator provides a reflective closing. In 2050, Policing isn't merely about enforcing laws. It's about integrating technology that prevents harm before it happens. Tools like predictive patrol drones don't remove the human element. They refocus it. Officers make decisions with clarity instead of fear. Drivers interact with information instead of uncertainty. And every encounter becomes less about confrontation and more about understanding. Final drone footage plays, a quiet aerial shot of the empty nighttime interstate. The narrator ends the section with a final thought that echoes the title of the documentary. These were the unbelievable police encounters of 2050, not because they were extreme, but because they redefined what safety can look like.
As the night's patrol concludes, and the footage of the unbelievable encounters begins circulating across the nation, the scene shifts from individual reactions to a broader transformation taking shape across the United States. Section 5 explores how predictive patrol drones, once experimental prototypes, now stand at the center of a policing evolution unlike anything seen in American history. The documentary opens with sweeping aerial shots of major cities: New York, Chicago, Dallas, Seattle. Above each, clusters of small, quiet drones drift through the air, performing wide area sweeps that are barely noticeable from the ground. What viewers see now is no longer a rare pilot program. It's a network, a coordinated system that communities began adopting after witnessing the benefits in early 2050. The narrator steps in. Before quantum imaging drones took flight, policing was reactive. Officers responded after crimes occurred, after dangers manifested, after crises unfolded. But the technology revealed in our viral footage marked a turning point, creating a proactive model centered on prevention, transparency, and safety. We cut to an officer training center in Arizona. Recruits gather in an open-air field where drone pilots, now part of every department, teach new classes how to interpret resonance data, how to guide drones ethically, and how to integrate the tech with human judgment. Unlike traditional drone maneuvers, these predictive units operate semi-autonomously. Officers are trained not to fly them manually, but to understand their behavior and decision-making protocols. A trainer speaks on camera. The drone is not a replacement for an officer. It's a proactive partner. It reads patterns, highlights risks, and gives officers a picture they never had before. But people forget, officers still make the final call. A split screen shows one recruit studying the layered structural scans of a vehicle, while another practices engaging a driver respectfully after receiving a quantum alert. This dual system, tech-assisted perception combined with human interaction, defines the new generation of policing. The documentary transitions to the Department of Justice headquarters, where policymakers discuss the sweeping regulations implemented since the technology became public. A digital hearing room displays the Federal Law Enforcement Quantum Standards Act passed earlier that year. The legislation outlines strict rules: no biological scans, no facial mapping, no human imaging, no identity analysis. Only objects, materials, and mechanical structures may be detected or flagged by the predictive system. A DOJ official explains, "Public trust depends on limits. We've drawn clear lines. If technology crosses them, it's unlawful. The drones are tools, not surveillance devices." Next, we shift to local communities embracing the technology. In one neighborhood in Detroit, residents host a community Q&A with officers and drone tech.
In the weeks following the viral footage of the 2050 patrol encounters, the United States found itself standing at a crossroads, caught between the astonishing promise of quantum patrol drones and the deep moral questions surrounding their use. Section 6 pulls the camera back even further, revealing a nation grappling with the balance between innovation and liberty, protection and privacy, prevention and overreach. The chapter opens with a sweeping shot of the U.S. Capitol at sunrise. A line of autonomous media drones hovers silently overhead, capturing the moment as lawmakers prepare to convene for what many describe as the most important tech ethics hearing of the decade. Inside, senators, scientists, civil rights advocates, police chiefs, and everyday citizens gather to debate the future of predictive patrol systems. The narrator begins. Technology does not exist in a vacuum. It exists inside a nation of real people with real fears, real hopes, and real stakes. And as quantum policing rose to prominence, so did the question, what kind of America do we want this technology to create? The first footage shown is from a Senate committee room where Chief Reyes, now known nationally after the viral encounter, testifies before lawmakers. He speaks with calm confidence, wearing the same composed expression seen during the cold fusion incident. Senators, the drone didn't just help us do our jobs, it prevented danger. It created transparency. It gave us a chance to keep the public safe without escalating force. But tools like this are only as good as the rules we build around them. His testimony is followed by a tech privacy advocate, Dr. Kiera Hahn, who raises a different concern. My fear isn't the technology, it's the temptation. If we don't draw strict boundaries now, clear, immovable lines, we risk drifting into a future where scanning cars becomes scanning homes, scanning bodies, scanning identities. The drone should always remain a safety device, not a surveillance device. The documentary cuts to public opinion clips. A teacher in Colorado says, "The tech is amazing. My biggest worry is mission creep. Where does it stop?" A parent in Florida responds, "If it keeps my kids safe on the highway, I'm all for it. Just keep it regulated." A mechanic in Texas adds, "Honestly, it's like having a safety inspector watching the roads. Half the time it finds problems I'd charge hours to diagnose." Next, the film dives into the heart of the ethical dilemma. Animated overlays visually explain the limits of quantum imaging, its inability to detect biological material, its exclusive focus on objects, its anonymized structural analysis. A narrator clarifies that the imaging tech is physically incapable of scanning inside people, a design choice hardwired into its hardware, not just its software. Still, the documentary acknowledges the emotion.
Night settles again over the American highway system. A ribbon of lights stretching across the country like glowing veins of a living organism. Cars hum cast in steady streams. Autonomous haulers glide in designated lanes. Cyclists zip along their protected tracks. Above it all, like silent guardians in the sky, the predictive patrol drones move with calm precision, scanning, watching, and listening to the pulse of the nation they were built to protect. This final section of the documentary begins with the simple truth. Every era of policing has been defined by the tools of its time. But the measure of progress isn't technology, it's what we choose to do with it. The narrator's voice carries the viewer through a sweeping aerial sequence of cities and highways. The footage feels almost serene now, a stark contrast to the shock and disbelief that gripped the country when the drone video first went viral. What once felt unbelievable has settled into everyday life. Drivers barely look up when a drone passes overhead. Officers check their quantum dashboards as naturally as they once checked mirrors. The extraordinary has softened into the expected. Yet this calm isn't the absence of conflict, it is the product of awareness. The film cuts back to Officers Reyes and Hill, filmed months after the viral incidents. They walk together down the precinct hallway, past windows showing rows of drones undergoing routine maintenance. The once experimental predictive unit, nicknamed QI, sits in its cradle like a veteran resting between missions. Officer Hill speaks first, reflecting on how everything has changed since that night. "You don't realize how much non-clarity shapes policing," she says. "Before the drones, we stepped into situations blind. Unknowns everywhere. And unknowns create fear. Fear for officers, fear for drivers. Now the unknowns are smaller, and when fear shrinks, communication grows." Reyes nods, adding softly,
clarity saves lives in both directions. Their on-screen candor humanizes the technology in a way policy debates never could. These officers, once just faces behind body cams, have become ambassadors of a new balance between tech and trust. Next, the documentary revisits the man whose prototype fusion battery nearly failed on the highway. He stands beside a newly upgraded SUV, now fitted with a fully certified and safe civilian power cell. He speaks with gratitude, but also with a deeper understanding. That night woke me up, not just to the danger in my car, but to the idea that policing doesn't have to be combative. It can be technical, it can be informational, it can be, believe it or not, helpful. He smiles slightly. If that drone hadn't flagged the problem, I might not be here today. His story becomes emblematic of a broader shift. The documentary cuts to emergency rooms, showing medical professionals explaining how fewer high-speed chases and fewer mechanical failures